Of all the creatures that live in the water, whether in the seas or in the streams, you may eat anything with fins and scales. But the following among all the teeming life and creatures in the water are detestable to you: everything in the seas or streams that does not have fins and scales. Leviticus 11 verse 9. We are no longer baby, and the Lord does not want his children to remain babies. We can come to him the way we are. But we cannot remain babies. We must rise level. The more we are taught and the more we grow, the more we discover restriction, taboo and prohibited practices from the Lord. Then you realize that you won't do what everybody in the world do because you are called out and set apart. When you are making efforts to get close to the Lord, he will notice it, and will arrange circumstances where you will encounter the teaching that will separate you from certain habit. When we are baby, the Lord know it and give us time to grow. I was adorning myself with the items of Jezebel, wearing hair attachment and painting my face. Still the Lord continued to use me, and he did not rush, until he told me, Adeline, when you were putting artificial nail and hair on women in your saloon, the enemy was clapping for you and saying, faithful and good servant, I am satisfied with your service. But I had pity on you because I knew that you were a baby and you were ignorant of the doctrine of holiness of the body. When I realized that I was serving the devil by working in my saloon, I gave up everything. When the Lord instructed me to close my salon, and I gave up vanity and wig, I was in Angola seeking life, and the Lord told me, are you not seeing that whatever you are trying to do as business is not working? Witches have bewitched your hands and they had put holes in your hand. This is what you will do. You gonna pray for water and wash your hand that has been bewitched with that water. Since I was still a baby, I said to my husband, how can God ask us to pray for water and wash our hand? It's the native doctor that speak to the water and ask people to wash their hand with that water. I cannot do it. I will only invoke the blood of Jesus. Since I disobey the Lord, I suffer financially in the hand of the witches until I repented. But now that I am grown up, the Lord expect me to understand these things. I realize that more restriction and more abstinence and more taboo are being revealed, but I have never heard a pastor preaching that a particular fish was bad for consumption. The whole thing started when I heard the song of Brother, who said that there are birds that the Lord has declared impure, and among them was raven. Yet the Lord said to Elijah, you can drink fresh water from the brook. I've ordered the ravens to feed you. Elijah obeyed God's orders. He went and camped in the Kerith Canyon on the other side of the Jordan. And sure enough, ravens brought him his meals, both breakfast and supper, and he drank from the brook. When I was thinking about this passage, I realized that God made everything but there are animals that he had declared impure. But I said to myself, we are in the New Testament, all is permitted. That's when a brother wrote me and said, Adeline, since you hear the voice of God, avoid eating pig because it will stifle you, because God has declared it impure. When I heard this, I did not dismiss nor accept it. I want to warn you, brethren, when you hear a new information, don't be conclusive and categorical. Don't just dismiss things you don't understand, but seek clarification from the Lord. Do not trust your mind and intellect. Many are hardening their heart because they do not know the level where God is taking the elect. I fasted for 3 days and the Lord began to talk to me clearly. Brethren, if you knew how fulfilling and refreshing it is to speak to God face to face, you will accept all the sacrifice and you will spend all your time in His presence. When I spoke to God, I felt as if I was the only person in the whole universe with my Father God. It's like you are no longer part of the fallen world of men, and you are immersed in a divine dimension of majesty, unspeakable joy and fulfillment. Then one day, sister who follow me online sent me a link, and asked me to follow it and give her my opinion, but I did not have time to follow the video. But when I read the main passage of the video, I saw that it was written we should not eat pig, otherwise we will be defiled. I said, thank God I no longer eat pig. But when I began to read people comment, I saw that they were talking about fish that does not have fin and scales. These scaleless fish that does not have fin should not be eaten by Christian, because it defile them. When I saw this, I did not know what to make of it. Yet it is written of all the creatures that live in the water, whether in the seas or in the streams, you may eat anything with fins and scales. But the following among all the teeming life and creatures in the water are detestable to you: everything in the seas or streams that does not have fins and scales. Leviticus 11 verse 9. But since then I no longer cook these scaleless fish that lack fin at home, I still eat them at other people's houses. But since I heard the Ivorian sister report, I lost the motivation to eat these fish that don't have scales and fin. I was saying in my heart, I have no choice but to abandon eating these fish once for all. The sooner the better. When I made a video where I said that we must avoid fish that don't have fin and scales because the Lord is against it, a sister told me, we don't eat catfish, for back home we used to hear that evil people give birth to that fish. These fish also come from women's womb. Then another sister from Brazzaville told me, her mother never cook a catfish, because evil people give birth to that fish. All these made no sense to me. It's when we were praying that the Lord spoke to me. It was not a dream. When the Lord opened my spiritual eyes, I saw a woman laying down and she had her legs spread. I said, Lord, who is this woman and what's wrong? She looked like she is pregnant, but when I was watching her womb I saw that her pregnancy was strange. For one part of her belly was big and another part was little. I said, Lord, this pregnancy is strange. Then I saw a young girl that came to this pregnant lady and introduced her hand to the body of the lady, as if she wanted to pull a baby. I said, this girl is too little to introduce her hand in the private part of the lady. Then the lady began to push as if she was giving birth, and finally the young girl pulled out something, and she placed what came of the womb on a utensil. I saw that it were catfish and these fish were moving. I was terrified and in shock. The woman told the young girl, cook this for them and come back to get more. The young lady said, I am going to give these fish to them so that they will cook, and I am coming back to get some out. I said, oh Lord, how come what people would eat is coming out of woman's womb? I was shocked and in terror, and I came out of the vision, and I share with people online. That's when I remember the two people who told me about fish coming out of women's womb. When I told the vision to my husband, he began to tell me the story of a woman in Congo, who sold catfish in the central market, until the day she was caught delivering catfish from her womb in the bathroom in order to sell in the market, and people who ate these fish, their stars were transferred to this woman. The Lord wants his people to be powerful. He is forbidding us things that we did not know were stifling us. What we must do is to obey. This is serious. Since God has revealed this truth, I have made my decision along with my husband, because we do not want to be defiled and stifled. We no longer cooked catfish and these scaleless fish and fish that do not have fin. Brethren, I have explained about food that can be an instrument of the enemy to affect our spiritual life. I made it clear, when you are eating a fish that was a human meat, transformed into fish thanks to incantation and magic prayer, if you pray to the Lord to sanctify the fish that you are eating, the Lord will turn the fish that was a human meat to an actual fish because of your prayer, simply because you did not know that the fish that you bought was a human meat turned to fish, and because you have prayed for it, the Lord, who know that it is not a fish, will turn it to a fish for you. However, the animal that the Lord has declared impure, you cannot purify it. If you buy a human meat that was turned to lamb meat by evil entrepreneur, the moment you pray before you eat, it will cause you no harm, because you did not know that it was a human meat, and you have pray. As a result, the Lord presence will turn it normal lamb, but eating human meat that is not transformed to other meat is bad, even if you pray for it, because it is raw, like that Ivorian woman that was butchered by his husband, and sold in the butchery in France. If you have bought her, even if you pray, you will be affected. This is the same with animal and fish that the Lord has declared impure. When we eat them, we are defiled. We must always pray for food and drink, but the meat that the Lord has declared impure will not be purified by prayers. I don't think that the Lord would have accepted to the request of demon to cast them into pig if these pig were lamb, simply because the Lord know that lamb are normal food, they are not impure. However, that is not the same for pig. Pig are not normal food because the Lord has declared them impure. Since the pig were impure, they were not appropriate food for consumption. That's why the Lord accepted the request of demon to be sent to the pig, for pig are already impure. Demon do not dwell in what is clean, but in what is defiled. They asked to be sent to the pig because they pig were already declared impure by the Lord. They would not ask to be sent into lamb because lamb are not declared impure. and the Lord would not accept it to send them to Lamb. I was with sisters at home talking about a feast where we were invited where they were served catfish. I warn them, if you eat these catfish you will see what happen.